Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at a very tiny little drone called the Dobby. And what's been interesting about this thing is that it has some intelligence to how it works. So it's actually a little bit better than some of those cheap little drones you might find out there. Unfortunately, this one is not so cheap. It costs anywhere between $350 and $400 right now, and we're going to be putting it through its paces and seeing all the things that it can and can't do in just a second. But I do want to mention, in the interest of full disclosure, this is on loan from Zerotech, the company that makes the Dobby. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, and no one is reviewing this content before it is posted. All right, so let's get into the hardware now. Very small device, as you can see. You can see here in context to me, so you can really fold it up and fit it in a bag or something you really can't do with other larger drones. On the front here, you've got a camera. This is a 13 megapixel camera. It also shoots video that you'll be able to output at 1080p at 30 frames per second. They are, in some marketing materials, stating that this is a 4K camera, which it sort of is, but they're using that extra resolution to attempt, and I really stress the word attempt, to stabilize the footage on it. So you're only going to get 1080p 30 video out of this thing, and as you'll see in a few minutes, I'm not all that impressed with the video quality. It lacks a gimbal, of course, given its size, and if you want to adjust the camera's position, you have to do so manually here before you take off. So you can get it into a few different positions here. They kind of snap into place, and then you can do various things that the device can do. It does have some tracking capacity, which I'll show you in a minute. So if you want to track something on the ground, you'll have to angle the camera down before you take off with it. Pretty decent construction on this. These propellers, of course, I'm sure will wear out over time. You can replace the whole set for $17, so you buy them in packs of 2, and then if something happens to the props, you can replace them. Unfortunately, they don't give you spare props in the box, which is unfortunate given the cost here. You'd think they could throw in a couple of extra propellers in case you break them on your first couple of maiden voyages with it. The battery is included, and it is included here on the bottom, and it snaps out here and charges in a separate included charger. It only lasts, though, about 8 minutes if you're lucky, so you're really not going to have a lot of battery life out of this, so you might want to get a second battery. Problem is the batteries are also very expensive, about $65 right now on Amazon, so this is really not an inexpensive device to pilot around, especially if you want to try to fly it for more than 8 minutes at a time. If it's really windy outside and it's trying to hold its position, you'll see that the battery life drains even faster. So I saw battery life as little as 6 minutes and as high as about 7 or 8 minutes in my testing with it, so just be aware of that. Now, it's got some sensors on it, though. You've got the audio sensor here. What this does, it kind of works like sonar, where it's bouncing sound off the ground to measure how far it is from hitting something or landing on something, hopefully. And there's a little camera here also that it uses for keeping itself stationary when its GPS goes out. So if you're flying indoors, what it does is it uses that bottom camera to try to paint a picture of the floor and keep itself from moving too much while it's hovering inside, which is a good thing. It's something that a lot of these tiny little drones often lack. And that's what I mean. I think there's really a lot of good intelligence on this device, but unfortunately, as you'll see in a minute, the image quality isn't so great. Now, the weight on this is 7 ounces or 199 grams, so it's very lightweight. That weight, by the way, includes the battery as well. But it does get tossed around in the wind a little bit when it's outside. Indoors, it fares a little better, although it does get knocked off by its own turbulence occasionally. But generally, it's been pretty good at keeping itself stable. So let's launch it right here in the studio and see how it performs. All right, so we have our Dobby almost ready to fly here. We're going to do a quick indoor test flight with it. It's one of the things they say you can do with this drone is fly it inside, so we're going to try that out. Now, I've got my iPhone connected to it right now via Wi-Fi. That is how it works. So you have to get your phone connected up via Wi-Fi to the device directly, and then it will fly from there. It supports both 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. What's interesting is that the app tries to push you to 5 gigahertz, which actually has less range than the 2.4 gigahertz does, but it's one of those things of weighing the amount of frequency interference you might have at 2.4 gigahertz versus maybe less so at 5 gigahertz. So you have to really test this out in your own environment to see what might work for you. But the range is really limited to what you might have with Wi-Fi, and you're limited to about getting maybe 164 feet or so of altitude with it. So you're not going to take this thing up as high as you might a Phantom drone or something like that, but good enough for getting maybe some shots of a roof of a house or something along those lines. But don't expect great altitude from this. So now what we're going to do is pull up our 2-up shot here, and I'm going to go over to the takeoff button here on the app and say take off now, and hopefully the drone doesn't destroy my room here. And there we go. So you see you get an image back from the drone as to what's going on. I can also adjust the altitude here. There's a couple of different controls that you can run with this. What I've done with mine is put it on what they call the safe sticks, because, let me just land it real quick here, it's making a lot of noise. The safe sticks I actually prefer just because the other modes require pinching and zooming or changing the orientation of your phone, and I found those things tend to lend themselves to getting out of control very quickly. I had that happen to me on the Parrot drone a number of times, where you maybe tilt your phone a little too much and it goes out of control. I do like the ability just to push some virtual buttons here on my control pad to make everything work. So what I'm doing right now with mine here, let me just take off again, is I can adjust the altitude here with this stick. So if I want to go down lower, I just push down lower. I can go back up here with the up command there. And let me go switch back to our 2-up view so you can see what's going on here with the device here. So I'm just tilting, pushing the right and left buttons here, and you can see that the drone is responding to that. But look how good the drone stays in place. It really does, even indoors, have a very good amount of flight control, something that I haven't seen on a lot of smaller drones before. So there's definitely some intelligence at play here. It's not perfect. You can see it's drifting a little bit, but it does work very hard to keep itself stationary when you want it to be stationary, which I found to be a very good thing. So let me land it here again. Now you'll notice there's an option for palm landing, and one of the cool things about this drone being so little is that you can have it actually land and take off from your palm. And the way they did it was not in a cheap way, because I've seen some of these drones where they say you can just throw it and it'll start flying, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. This one doesn't work like that. You hit takeoff and then you just kind of move your hand away and it figures out that it needs to start flying on its own. So it does get the propellers going, so you don't risk dropping it when you move your hand away, and it just starts flying. So really cool takeoff and landing, some decent amount of intelligence on it. It also has the ability to track objects similar to what we saw on the Phantom drone, just not as good. So you can draw a circle around something, or a square in this case, and then have it track that object and follow it around on the ground. So it has some of those features. It can do some orbiting features where it flies around an object and in a circular pattern and just keeps that object centered in the frame. Now it also has a creepy face tracking mode, which will track a person's face and follow them around. There is a very easy way to escape from it though. You just turn your back to the drone, it doesn't see your face anymore, and you can run away. But as long as it sees your face, it will track you down, and thankfully it, at least at the moment, doesn't have any weapons to hurt you with. Although you do need to be careful that the drone doesn't have any obstacle avoidance built in. So if you are indoors doing face tracking or one of the other automated features, it will run into things and crash because it doesn't know to look around its surroundings. So I would say if you are going to try any of these automated features, do it outside where you got plenty of room to play with. So here are some backyard videos out of the video camera here, and we'll start off with a snowy scene so you can get a feel for how it might handle some challenging dynamic range issues. It doesn't do too bad at that, but the videos are very compressed, so you don't get a lot of detail out of the video. It doesn't not like low light situations at all, so you'll see a lot of graininess when you aren't in ideal outdoor sunlight conditions with it. So video is okay. The stabilization though is pretty bad on it. Even though they've got that 4K sensor and try to digitally stabilize the footage, it really just does not do a good job of it, and you will be getting your viewers knocked around quite a bit. Even if there's not a lot of air turbulence, it's still going to be bumping around a lot more than I would like to see out of a drone at this price point. Now, buried deep within the app is a feature called EIS, or Electronic Image Stabilization. And what this will do in real time is attempt to smooth out the images a little bit better than what you just saw on my video examples. But the problem I'm finding with it is twofold. One is that it doesn't do such a great job of stabilizing the images. You can see one shot here with EIS turned on inside, and it was still getting bumped around a little bit more than I thought it should. But the other issue you run into with it is that if you are outside with it and you get hit with a good gust of wind, or you tilt or move the drone in a faster motion, what will happen is you'll start seeing the edges of the frame. And here's an example, kind of an exaggerated one, but something that I think you'll probably encounter when you're flying with this mode turned on. You'll see some black bars showing up on the left and right side of the screen here as I'm moving the drone back and forth, and that is due to the fact that we're putting more motion in that it can compensate for. So you're going to be stuck with a video that has this on there. So what you might want to do is not shoot with EIS on and then stabilize the video later with your video editing application. Many on the market now support that feature, or have YouTube stabilize the footage for you. I think it'll look very similar, maybe better, depending on the software package that you're using. And again, I don't really recommend using EIS to smooth out the footage. Still, images aren't bad. Again, if you have good light, you're going to have better images, but they are still very compressed. I had this one shot of my tree in the backyard there that you really can't make out the branches all that well due to the compression, maybe due to some of the motion going on with the drone as well. So you'll definitely want to set your shots up and try to get the best possible light that you can. Here's one shot that the PR people left on the drone when they sent it to me from indoors with the sun shining in. Doesn't look bad, but again, not a lot of detail visible in the images there. Now, when you're done flying it around, you can pull your images off on your smartphone here, as you can see, so you can get access to your videos and your photos if you wish. You can also plug it into a computer, although I was not able to get the drone to download the images to my Mac. The Mac just didn't see it when I plugged it in. It did work fine on Windows. So I think if you're on the Mac platform, you're going to need to get those images off the drone through your smartphone versus a direct connection. The drone itself has about 16 gigabytes of storage available for those photos and videos, and because they're so compressed, I think you'll get a good amount of content stored on the drone, but you'll probably want to make sure you keep clearing everything off because there's no SD card option on it. So that is the Zerotech Dobby Drone, a very small and compact device. It's actually pretty rugged too, and I crashed it a couple of times in the house, not on purpose, but by accident, and it seemed to survive those crashes well, and the propellers here held up nicely too. It really does fold up into a nice small compact package that you can take with you anywhere. The problem though is that the props tend to flop out when it's folded up, so you may want to get a case for it to prevent that from happening and getting those propellers crushed in your bag, especially if you're putting it in with a bunch of other stuff. So that was the only thing that I noticed on the fold-up procedure here that might be of issue. Now, my biggest gripe with this, well, two biggest gripes, is first the battery life. It's abysmal, and the extra batteries cost a lot of money, at least on Amazon when I was looking at them. So that's one area of concern. You're only going to get a couple of minutes, if that, of flight time out of this, so kids might get a little frustrated with the short duration flights that you'll see with this thing. But the other issue I have is the camera. So if this was like 150 or 200 bucks, I'd probably give the camera a pass. It might even say the camera isn't bad for the price point. But when you get into the $350 to $400 territory, you're now inching your way into mid-range consumer drones that have much more stable cameras with better image quality. And that's something, even though this is supposed to be small and compact, and that is its main selling point, I think if you are selling this thing for its camera, the camera needs to meet the price expectation. And for me right now, it doesn't. There's a lack of detail. The images are heavily compressed, and as you saw, the stabilization isn't all that great on it either. So that's the one thing kind of preventing me from recommending this at the moment, because I really do like the flight control. I think for a Wi-Fi based drone, it does handle very nicely. They give you a number of options for how to control it, which is good. But again, that camera just is a big issue for me, especially given what they're charging. So I'd love to see a 2.0 version of this, or maybe they can do some stuff in software to improve it. But at the moment, I think hold off on this until they get that camera worked out. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by my Patreon supporters. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.